This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode 116. Hello, Timothy Seymour Dahl.
How you doing?
Perfect as usual.
Good.
All good.
Good.
There's a lot of grisly shit going down. I don't know if you were watching this week, the military generals talking about the pullout from Afghanistan. I mean, what a nightmare, but it's just part of the ongoing American nightmare, which is not ending just because the ass clown is out of the White House. But speaking of just insanity, 4 high school students in Pennsylvania have been accused of planning a school shooting in 2024 on the 25th anniversary of the Columbine shooting. Lackawanna County District Attorney Mark Powell said Friday that 2 of the students, a 15-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl, have been charged as adults due to the nature of the alleged crimes. The female teen is charged with possessing weapons of mass destruction, terrorist threats, aggravated assault, and criminal conspiracy. Male teen is charged with possessing weapons of mass destruction, explosives, criminal conspiracy, terrorist threats, criminal conspiracy, aggravated assault.
What were these weapons of mass destruction?
Let's get to that. Court documents show the group was allegedly planning to attack Dunmore High School on April 20th using guns and bombs. Authorities said that the teenagers titled the alleged plot Natural Born Killers and said in a group chat that they would shoot up the school. They also called dibs on certain victims. The text allegedly said that the 15-year-old girl had materials to make explosives at her home, which officers discovered through a search warrant. Oh, my word. They found notebooks where she allegedly idolized Columbine and the guns they used. She told the group she'd get trench coats, gas masks, bulletproof. I mean, it's rare that you see a female involved in this very incel type activity.
Yeah, but something's in the water right now with that Wilkes-Barre Scranton area, which is where Dunmore. I don't know if you saw that video during the winter where people were fighting over shoveling driveways, and the guy just took out a gun, just massacred everything. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, it's insane. It brings me back to Pennsylvania and my favorite vote for Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. The one that was the mayor of Braddock and had everybody that was murdered under his watch tattooed on his arm. I saw him interviewed the other night on TV. And I mean, he is really one of the only reasonable voices in politics right now. He's just a straight shooter, needs to be investigated, needs to rise up in the ranks. And he just ranks. And he's complaining, of course, about the frauded now maybe going to Pennsylvania, Georgia. I mean, look, ass clouds, have more frauded so that you can prove that Trump lost by even more fucking numbers. Take it away, Timmy. I'm sick of this shit.
It was announced, they're going to release John Hinckley.
Whoops, sorry about that.
Unconditionally, and that's talk about just policy and stuff coming back to bite you. I mean, you had a loosening gun control, pro easy access to guns, mixed with basically Reagan cutting all this funding towards mental illness, and then guess what happened? A crazy person got easy access to a gun and shot him.
Well, and by the way, there were over 21,000 murders in the USA last year. What's interesting is, the crimes that dropped, of course, robberies and burglaries, because everybody was home. So, murders, murder, damn fool. Can't believe it. Of course, it's on the uprise. People are desperate, sick, impoverished, mentally ill. Welcome to America, asshole.
All right. Well, I'll see if I can connect a thread with this. I guess this person was sick. I don't know if he was mentally ill, but a 22-year-old man died after guzzling a 1.5 liter ice cold bottle of Coca-Cola.
Wow.
It was in China. I don't think they sell the 1.5 liter bottle here, but so he was really thirsty. That's kind of old school when you're really thirsty to go for things like Coke, but he guzzled. Which
only makes you thirstier.
Yeah, well, maybe he didn't realize that. So then suddenly he's like, "Oh, my stomach is really painful."
Did it explode?
Well, it was so bad that he went to the hospital, and they claimed he suffered from hepatic ischemia. Which is in other words known as shock to the liver. Too much gas, and there wasn't enough oxygen that got to his liver, and he died. Now, of course, Coca-Cola is already lawyering up on this one, and they have some guy from like Oxford or no, from the London University biochemist department.
I mean, I probably
He's saying that's impossible. He claims that it's probably a bacteria that got in his intestines that created a weird gas little colony that probably got into his bloodstream.
Well, I mean, suck guzzling is not good on anything.
I think that's difficult. I mean, how the fuck do you shotgun down
because
1.5 liters of Coke?
Because people, when they're hooked on Coca-Cola or Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, two of the worst fucking drinks on the planet, they will be known to drink 1 or 2 liters a day, but not all at once. Now, me and bacteria, you mentioned it.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with
yes,
things. And I found this absolutely beautiful exhibition. And the title is Tainted with Manufactured Objects, Slime Moles and Spores Grow into unnaturally striking compositions. These are so beautiful, and it's on a website called Colossal. It's in art, like Culture magazine. So Moscow-based artist and mold enthusiast I have to meet, Daria Fedorova, intervenes in natural decomposition processes, accentuating textures and colors and pushing the boundaries of science and art. Right up my alley. The artist, who works as Dasha Plessin, laces petri dishes with various bacteria and other organisms before placing extra elements like fluffy balls, I don't know whose, sugars and sprinkles in the container. So these manufactured additions impede the growths to produce myriad shades and structures and cultivate otherworldly compositions of unnaturally saturated colors, patches of fuzz, flared coils of slime, all within a single vessel. Oh my God, I love it. Foregoing antibiotics or other treatments that would save the fungi and spores from ruin, Plessin's work takes between 3 and 4 weeks to materialize. She told Colossal, the magazine, that the ongoing project began with the idea of microbiological mapping of our surroundings. And quote, "We're all swimming in the ocean of tiny spores and organisms, breathing them in and carrying them on top of our skin and inside the body. I was interested in this parallel between the physical world where we can see and touch, and also another physical world, which also presents, but is kind of metaphysical, invisible, somewhere between the air layers, vibrations, energies, and nature." Now, this is right up my alley, because what we don't see, there's more of it. There's more in existence that we can't see than what we can see. So whether displaying stacked rows of spores or a bubbly rim, the resulting studies are ripe with questions about human imposition, the artificial cyclical processes, and the inherent beauty of decay. So I definitely suggest this article. The images are just gloriously gorgeous and creepy, to say the least. And that is just something I'm very much into. Colossal Art Magazine. The artist name is Dasha Plessin, Plessen. Try to get that genius on the show.
All right. I was trying to make a thread here, but
you don't have to.
I have other stories. I don't know how that connects.
Yeah,
well, there's a few things. There was like a mom, kind of like a movie Carrie situation where mom thought her daughter possessed by the devil, made her swallow a crucifix, and she died. But that was a weird one. I think the mom might have been on meth or something. It was just paranoid.
No doubt.
Well, there's also a mom toddler son story where they fatally fell to their death at a San Diego Padres game. They're on the balcony, like the third story's up, and they don't know what they think. It's not, there's foul play. Maybe she committed suicide holding her toddler. The one witness basically saw the toddler was like on a picnic bench that's right near the edge of this thing, I don't know, and fell, and she dove to save him, and they all died. It's not really clear what the fuck happened. Now, Elizabeth Beisel, I think that's how you say her name, the Olympics medalist swimmer. The only reason I'm bringing this up, you'll see where it's going. She did a fundraiser. She swam from Rhode Island to Block Island. Her dad died of pancreatic cancer. Fundraiser.
Where's Block Island?
Well, it's off of Rhode Island, but it was a 10.5 miles in 5 hours and 19 minutes swimming. Well, the thing is, you know how many fucking great whites are right there right now? I don't know what the fuck she's thinking, because they're all that shit's from New England in the summer is starting to migrate south right now. So, and I saw, not to digress, I was at Rockaway on Saturday.
What'd you see, Tim?
I saw, really fucking close, really fucking close, full show of like 37, 38-foot humpbacks breaching, fully breaching out of the ocean, like really close, maybe 200 yards, 300 yards.
Wow.
And it was because they've changed these shipping lanes, I think. And so they're all migrating right now. They get fat up north in the eating all these fatty fish, or no, those things are they have baleen. There's whatever, they're fattening up on plankton or whatever. They're all migrating right now, and so you can see whale watches right off of New York City right now, and they're spectacular. They're just, you get lucky, they're jumping completely out. And then those pods of dolphins. It was just, people talk about like, oh, it's hard to get in touch with nature in New York. The ocean's the closest way to really do it. Right now, there's a big problem in Rome and the suburbs of Rome. Just families of wild boar just coming. I think it's
every few years. They're in Hamburg, they're in Cologne, they're in Rome, they're in China.
Well, they'll fuck you up. And I was just, last time I was in Italy and I was in Sardinia and I was swimming. It was like a not beautiful beach, but there's some woods before you get from the parking lot to the beach. And I was coming back, and there were like 4 little boar piglets.
They're so cute. Oh my God, there's spotted ones. Spotted ones. I love them.
These are little hairy brown ones, but they were
them.
Little. But
the mama's nearby.
Mom's around, and I was like, I got to get out of here because that thing will fuck you up. Fortunately, I never came across the mom.
I've had the same experience in the Black Forest once when I was having photos taken with Roland S. Howard. I don't even know why we were there, but I saw 4 little babies, and we got out of there before the mama came a calling.
Well, do you remember the time we were both driving in the Black Forest?
Tell me. I
think we were playing. I think it was like, I think I'm correct about this. It was after we were playing near Stuttgart around December, and they had the whole Christmas market, and that's when you had like a weird stalker was calling up and making like threats, and we had like police and bodyguards. Anyhow, but he was threatening to blow up the building or throw acid in the face. Some bullshit. Doesn't matter. He was a coward. He didn't jump. So, but we had to drive to, I think, Switzerland the next day, and we went through the Black Forest, and so here we are, kind of rolling hills, forest, and we're like, what the hell is that? And we're getting closer and closer. Why is there a skyscraper in the middle of a giant endless woods forest? There's a giant skyscraper.
How was it?
Well, we were going, and it was, I remember the name of the town because the dog is named after it. Is Rottweiler with Rottweilers are from
Rottweiler.
It was, and I don't have time to really look it up. It was whoever makes the number one company that makes skyscraper elevators. It was It was a testing building to test high-speed elevators for the globe's skyscrapers, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So you have this giant test skyscraper for elevators in the middle of nowhere.
I wonder if the pigs were the test subjects.
Good
question.
Possibly. Well, we did eat some schwein, I think, right around
Speak for
there.
Yourself. I know you like a good pork cheek every now and then.
Well, I like a good Schweinhaxe.
I like a good bite of your cheek every now and then.
Whoa.
All right. Let's get back to facts here.
Okay.
And this kind of leads, in a sense, to our next guest. Not really, but sci-fi soundtrack or insect defense. Scientists translate the unpleasant chemicals, I love it, secreted by sawfly larvae to repel predators into eerie music. Now, sawfly larvae protect themselves from ants by secreting nasty chemicals. And scientists use a process called, of course we know this, we use it every time we play a rock concert, sonification, to turn the chemicals into music. Now, they tested the track on 50 human participants who called it absolutely frightening. Now, at first listen to this audio clip, you'd be forgiven for mistaking it as the soundtrack of a science fiction blockbuster, but the track isn't fiction at all and is actually the sound of sawfly larvae secreting cocktails of unpleasant chemicals. Oh, please hook me up to repel predators. I'd like to have my own scent hooked up to a sonification. So researchers from the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences, who I might visit on my coming journey to Brussels, have translated the secretions into eerie sounds and tested their effects on humans. Now, participants describe the sound as unpleasant, frightening, with many comparing them to like horror and science fiction films. But the sawfly, they're kind of cute little green little kind of caterpillar looking characters. They protect themselves from their unpleasant smell. See, I pull people in by my pleasant smell. So I gotta look into this.
Oh boy.
Anyway, according to Jean-Luc Beuve and Rudy Jat, who took a slightly different, some would say unusual approach to the new study, they said you have small molecules like acidic acid contained in vinegar or pungent formic acid emitted by some ants, and they're very volatile and diffuse into the air rapidly. So I thought, it would be possible to translate a higher low volatility into higher low tones, as well as other chemical traits into sound traits. So the team transferred the chemicals into sound through a process, sonification, in which characteristics of each molecule are mapped into different sound parameters: pitch, duration, and timbre.
Well, yes.
Chemical information is then fed into a synthesizer, which produces a sound for each molecule before mixing them all together. Oh my God, I love it. So anyway, they have other examples of this, like, phenomena in earthquake and seismological data, or network hacking and internet data streaming. And, this has been noted into databases. But once this sonification process was complete, the researchers unleashed it on humans, and they didn't like it. I thought it sounded pretty nice.
You can.
They already.
It's not like anything. You're like, what is this? You know what? If they broke it down to pitch, timbre, and duration, they left out intensity, aka volume.
Hey,
so
well,
they left out one of.
That brings me to the researchers at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We talked about this before, who transformed a spider's web into music, which I do recommend one listens to. You know me, I like instrumental music. Anyway, speaking of instrumental music and not so instrumental music, our next guest is Trevor Dunn, who's played with Mr. Bungle and various, just dozens of people.
John Zorn, a ton of people.
A lot of people. And by the way,
Turkish
pop stars.
Yeah.
And he's a very nice guy. He's he's one of my nearest neighbors. So I just have to say, please, won't you be my neighbor? The Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Trevor Dunn. God, it sounds like an organization if I've ever heard one. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Trevor Dunn, bass player extraordinaire. Welcome, neighbor.
Thanks for having me.
For whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of me, but we've interviewed a lot of bass players on this podcast.
The next is going to be bass fisherman.
Roar. That's terrible.
It's not going to be John. It's not going to be John Lurie, because he's not going to be on the show no matter what he does. It doesn't matter.
Well, this also happens to be, and Trevor might appreciate it or not, the anniversary of Jaco Pastorius's notorious manslaughter death.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
It's today, yes.
Yeah.
So
damn.
Kind of
how are you going to celebrate, or should I say commiserate, Tim?
I'm gonna go to a bar and say I'm the best bass player in the world and rip it out of whoever the bar band's bass players' hands, rip their bass out, and then the bouncer's gonna beat me up to death.
Excuse me, Trevor, do you want to contest that thought right there? So
no, it sounds like a good idea. Let's do it together, man. I'll meet you. Let's
tandem.
Let's bring our fretless basses. I know you have one, and
yes.
Yeah,
Trevor, I don't know a lot about you. I mean, I know the music that you've done, but I read a few interviews and you seem like a pretty chill dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty chill. I hang out with a lot of weirdos, but that's.
Well, this is what I want to get to, because I kind of share the same kind of thing. Like, you work with some people that some people think are really cool and others think are real fucking assholes. Now, the same could be said about Tim Dahl. It's like, basically, I'm never an asshole to the musicians I work with, but I mean, let's put it this way. John Zorn and even Mike Patton, they don't have very good reputations on the street, even though a lot of people really love their music. And I was just wondering if your chill nature, that you can navigate between these more extreme personalities.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, I will say both those are two guys that I've worked with for years, and they're intense hard workers, So the way that people perceive that and how it trickles down to the word on the street is dubious, you know. So, but yeah, I have the high tolerance, I think, for being able to step in these various kinds of situations and adapt and kind of like not take it personally if someone's barking at me, you know. So
the way I view it, and maybe you do too, is, you know, when you're going in to create, that is kind of a sacred space, and assholism should be excised from it. You can be as much of an asshole as you want later or off.
It's funny when someone's criticizing someone, they're like, or even complimenting someone, saying, "Oh, he's a nice guy," and I'm like, well, half my best friends are assholes. That means nothing. I mean, is a person a good person, or what are they here to contribute? And
what is an asshole, by the way? I mean, you know, sometimes people are considered assholes when they are, as you said, Trevor, relentless, because people just don't get it. It's like they're dedicated to their cause and they're going to fucking do it. Get out of the way.
Right. I mean, it's, you know, anyone who's like direct and honest is probably, I guess that's probably what an asshole is, you know. And I mean, those are two qualities that I actually struggle with, and I look up to people who can be that way. So, you know, maybe that's part of why I sign up for gigs like that, is to kind of learn how to be more direct and, you know, say what I want and not be so, you know, wishy-washy or whatever the fuck.
Well, you say it with those gorgeous hands of yours, don't you? Not everyone talks out of their mouth. Some people talk out of their ass. I think you're talking out of your fingers.
Right.
well, most bass players,
neighbor,
most bass players, there's a degree of diplomacy that is kind of essential. And so, what kind of diplomat are you? And there's different styles of doing it. Question though, if you're saying you struggle with that a little bit, and you are very diplomatic, and your ability to work with a wide range of personalities is really one of the major professional
commendable.
sides.
Yeah, absolutely commendable.
How do you do it without building up resentment sometimes, when you're kind of biting your tongue and not, and if you're struggling being direct with someone, like for me, if I'm not being direct, I can feel the blood kind of boiling, and like, how do I deal with this? Because I'm into realizing, and I'm into solutions. I'm not obsessed with the conflict. And so how do you do that tap dance, basically?
I mean, I think I've gone through phases of definitely, holding on to some kind of resentment or something, but then ultimately kind of addressing it myself. Like, why is that? Why am I feeling that way? You know, and how can I always think of any challenging scenario, whether it's musically challenging or personally, as some kind of a learning experience. Like, you know, and maybe the learning experience is like, I don't want to do this anymore. This guy, you know, this person over here is, you know, complete, like a serious asshole that I'm never going to be able to deal with, or something, you know, I'm not going to do that anymore, or for whatever reason. So I think it just comes down to, you know, self-reflection, really, and like, why am I feeling that way? It's, you know,
that's a really, really good point, Trevor. So here we are now, almost October. Last night, the full harvest moon, coming up to another round of the Moo variant. I can't wait till it's the No variant. What's going on immediately? What's happening? Did you just have a tour? I mean, we just got off tour. Did you just have a tour canceled or not?
Oh, yeah. Well, we were, you know, Mr. Bungle was supposed to play in Chicago at the Riot Festival and do our own show, which we were all very excited about. And we had to pull out for reasons I probably don't need to discuss, other than already been publicly discussed. Like, a member of the band is struggling. And so it had nothing to do with COVID, which is that almost makes it even worse, because after all this shit and we finally got a gig, you know, I mean, I haven't been really working and over, you know, like anyone else in a long time. And was very excited about doing these gigs, and for reasons other than COVID, actually rug got pulled out from under us.
You know, Trevor, during the pandemic, one of the things I've been working on is a documentary, which I'm producing, on artist depression, anxiety, and rage, because especially during the pandemic and just the normal struggles, anybody creative, not everybody, but a lot of creative people, it's like something like 73% of musicians, I think it's higher, you know, writers, poets, the escalating scale of how either traumatized just by the existential life, real trauma, family. So
Right.
I interviewed 35 people, which was my own personal crucifixion, because I don't have depression or anxiety. Rage I take to the stage, but I think it's a very important thing right now. So that you mentioned that, and we don't have to go into specific details. It's just something that so many people are feeling as we lived through 4 years of an assholic, clown. MAGA to me is make assholes go away. That's my new thing. And then the pandemic, and just, not knowing. The not knowing is what's brutal. So that's one of the things I've been working on. It's almost done. It's been pretty freaking heartbreaking to me, and also extremely poetic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole, the idea that, I mean, like a year, I don't know, year and a half ago, like April or May or something, people were like, oh, wow, is this going to last a few months? Is this how long, and then it lasts a year, and like, oh, okay. And now things are starting to open up. It's finally over. No, it's not over.
Yeah,
this constant not knowing, like you're saying,
I always consider the body just a vehicle, a landing strip for parasites and bacteria. So now, and we always are. I mean, I don't know, that 3 or 4 pounds of our body is just bacteria, is viruses growing. So we can't see the invisible enemies which live within us, which a lot of these cause gut bacteria, the wrong kind, cause depression and anxiety. We are carriers of so many viruses and bacteria, and they're really beautiful up close if you see them. But of course, they're killing people because Republicans are stupid and people won't get vaccinated. But, the body is just a vehicle to support, other life that might kill you.
Right.
Go ahead, Tim.
I mean, Trevor, I'm impressed with what you've endured. Also, I mean, I know and we can edit this out if you want. I mean, I know you dealt with a lot of loss. You lost your father in the last year and a half. You lost a partner, someone who you're romantically and personally involved with, and we actually had mutual friends, not just from COVID, suicide, drug overdose. I mean, it's a lot to take in, and we're all so conditioned to doing so many shows, and then you take that away on top of it. And I remember talking to you right before I texted you, like, oh, are you in Chicago? And you're like, well, we were on the fence because of COVID, and the Pixies have pulled out, Nine Inch Nails have pulled out, and then you told me, oh, we're going to pull the plug. And I had no idea,
right,
whatever Mike's going through, which is, it's I feel bad for the guy. And I'm, but I also feel bad for you. I mean, it's just heartbreaking that you couldn't do these things.
Yeah. I don't know. I take the punches as they come, and I have other shit going on, and I just have to, I mean, the real drag about Bungle is that we didn't do anything for 20 years. And then we pulled this thing up, and then
let's talk about what you pulled up. Was that like the demo based kind of metal thrash record that you then reconstituted? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So
what was the name of that? Was the name of that
Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, which was a demo we created in the late 80s. And then just, in the beginning of 2020, we re-recorded it and did some shows. And then that's when COVID hit. So we had plans to do a bunch of stuff and didn't. But I guess my point is, like, Bungle didn't do anything for 20 years. And I mean, it's a drag that we finally got the ball rolling again with it, and then, haven't been able to do it. But I mean, I survived without Bungle for a long time. So I'm going to continue to survive.
Well, and also, I mean, you're somebody that has recorded and performed consistently for decades, as we are.
Well, can we take it from there? Let's do the history for people that don't know.
Let's do the
so you grew up in Northern California, Humboldt County, or
hot growing capital of America.
Yeah, right in the center of the Emerald Triangle, behind the Redwood Curtain, very close to Murder Mountain.
All right,
Trevor, you're getting me excited now. Calm down, son.
So so Mr. Bungle was a high school band, right? So you guys were were friends, or you were friends with Mike Patton? You met Trey Spruance, or?
Yeah, me and Mike were friends. Me and Mike met in junior high. We played in a couple like metal bands or whatever together, and then we met Trey in high school, who was actually like a year and a half younger than us. And we got together with him and this drummer, Jed, our first drummer, and started playing. It was a metal band initially in the late 80s. We were totally riding the crest of metal at that age.
Yes.
Like I'm sure you were. So yeah, and then, you know, luckily a few years down the line, Patton got picked up by Faith No More. He got really famous, and then that actually gave us some like a window of opportunity. Like people started to see who we were through his fame, essentially.
Let's all right. Let's go even earlier. Sorry, I'm not going chronologically here because you asked me this once, and I never asked you. I don't think you're like, why'd you start playing the bass?
Yeah.
Didn't you start with the clarinet?
That was my first instrument. Yeah, which was
I've been. You have no idea. I mean, you do. You're going to tell us.
well, I feel like clarinet is a lot of people's first instrument, but I played that for 4 years in, you know, grammar school. And then my older brother, he's 5 years older than me. He started bringing home Kiss records and Blondie, and, you know, he had like Ted Nugent, Elton John records, all this shit. And he got me into rock music, and he started playing guitar. And I don't even think I really knew what bass was, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit different than what he was doing, but, you know, in that genre.
And then when did you pick up the double bass?
Not until I started going to college, you know, when I was right after high school. Basically, I kind of thought I was going to, you know, I was going to get a music degree, and I thought I was going to study electric bass, which was totally naive. And as soon as I walked in, they're like, here's a bow and here's some rosin. And I'm like, what do I fucking do with this?
I did that. French or German bow? I can't remember.
I started on French. Yeah.
But now you're German.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing. All right.
Yeah.
Besides our initials, we connect on a lot of, and being bass players, you want to connect on the bow jobs. All right, so all right, so the next thing you know, your high school buddy Mike Patton's in Faith No More, and he's on steady rotation on MTV, which gives you a big deal, a record contract with Warner Brothers, and that's like, and then now you have distribution, and your kind of kids all over the country know about your high school band.
Yeah, that was a super weird situation, because essentially we just, you know, Patton was under contract with Faith No More. We're all, you know, he's like 20 years old. And we finally start getting serious about Mr. Bungle. We record our record and we want to start shopping it around, but we're given a lot of flack from the Faith No More camp because, and not really the band, but, you know, their management and Warner Brothers and their, they kind of thought we were just Patton's like side joke band or something, which we never were. We were, and also it was never Mike Patton's band. It was always a collective, you know? So finally he had enough clout in Faith No More that he's like, look, if you guys don't let me do something with this band, I'm going to quit Faith No More. And they're like, okay, fine. But you, like, all we wanted was the freedom to shop our record around and find our own deal. But they were like, okay, we'll let you, here's the deal. You'll be on the Warner Brothers family or something. So we thought we were going to be on some small subsidiary until the record actually came out and it was on Warner Brothers. And we were like, what the fuck, you know?
Wow.
And
how did that first album do with Mr. Bungle?
It did okay. It didn't recoup. I mean, we got a good budget, which was great to record the record. It didn't recoup until years later. But
you know what? Who the fuck cares? It's record company money. Give us some more, please. I never had any of that. I'm just saying.
Exactly. You know what was great? What was great was that I have a feeling that at Warner Brothers they thought that we were going to be like the next Faith No More. That you know, they were kind of waiting for us to grow up and write a pop song, you know. So they just but they didn't give a shit about. They never bothered us. We made the records we wanted to make. There was never anyone breathing over our shoulders, you know. In fact, before our last, we only made 3 records on Warner Brothers before they finally got hip to dropping us. and before our last record, we actually had this idea. It's like, man, what if we just make an unlistenable, horrendous,
like a metal machine music?
Yeah, exactly, a noise record, and just say, here's our next record, you know, and see what happens. But I guess we chickened out on that.
Well, and the thing is, look, half the time with these major companies, all they're looking at is the numbers. They don't even care about the music. What are the numbers? They don't give a shit what you do. Oh, the next whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
We had this A&R guy who was actually kind of cool. I'll refrain from saying his name, but I remember we were at we were mixing the last record, and he was like, "Oh yeah, let me check some of the stuff out." So I was playing him one of the more kind of poppy songs, and he got completely bored of it and like walked out of the room while it was playing.
You mean there were no like pop hit singles on it?
I mean, there was a couple tunes that could have been remixed into like maybe.
Well, that's not what you were fucking going for. Come on.
Yeah.
So meantime, you're also doing your own thing, and you're still living in the Bay Area. And then when did you move to New York?
2000.
2000. Okay.
You missed all the good shit, honey. Not just
and well, we also interviewed Buzz Osborne. And did you meet him through Fantomas? Had you known him before?
I met him. I think I'd met him at a show or something before, but I didn't really get to know him until Fantomas. Yeah.
So did you ever go golfing with him?
Yes, I have been golfing with him, but I'm not a golfer.
Why?
So because he's obsessive and he's like,
and insistent.
And
are there any sports you enjoy doing? Not that golfing is a sport. It's an old man's opportunity to get away from the wife and smell some grass.
Yeah. Guys only, ladies forbidden. Exactly.
You know what? If I want to whack some balls, it's not going to be on a golf course. Let's put it that way.
It's going to involve your feet. I would assume.
Knees, elbows, fingers, head.
I don't. I exercise pretty regularly, and when I was before I really got into music, I was really into swimming. I actually was on the swim team, but I don't follow sports.
I don't follow sports either.
Occasionally I'll go to a baseball game because it's fun. I'll go see the Mets or whatever.
Because you like hot dogs.
yeah, hot dogs and beer.
So anyhow, so you're in New York. You're playing with Zorn. You're kind of doing albums with Bungle here and there. And you did the second one before you moved to New York, right?
Actually, yeah, we did the last one, and was actually recorded in '98. So it was after all that I moved to New York.
Oh, okay, all right. So you moved to New York, and you're working with Zorn a lot, and you're Fantomas, and then you get some Melvins gigs, some different.
Yeah. That there was a period where they didn't really have a bass player, so I filled in, before they kind of figured out what they were doing. And
Trevor, did you have to wear a frock?
I did. I didn't have to. Wait, I think I did. I'm pretty sure.
I think I have some dresses in your size when you come on over and visit. Not a biggie. All right.
I'm pretty sure I wore. Yeah, I did that.
Did you have a mustache while you wore the frock?
No, this is kind of in the last like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. So.
Yeah, all right. I'm just asking.
So did you did that Melvins tour where they did every state in X amount of days?
That was Melvin's Light. So I was actually playing upright bass. Buzz actually saw me playing with Nels Cline. I was switching back and forth between electric and upright. And he's like, and then the light bulb went off. He's like, man, I got to do upright bass in Melvins. So
the Nels Cline singers.
Yeah, exactly. So
I did an album with Nels Cline.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice.
Smoke in the Shadows. He played on that, and I also covered Heart Attack and Vine with him, which was great. Tom Waits song. Yeah.
Right on. I gotta check that out.
So how many days did it take to do every state?
We did every state plus DC, and we did it in 51 days.
So you only did one California show?
Yeah, we played LA was our penultimate show, and the last show was in Hawaii.
So what was the I asked you this before. I think you told me
excess the point, maybe.
No, you said that Wyoming might have been the weirdest one.
Wyoming was pretty weird. It was kind of like we had because we had to do it in 51 days. That was a goal to set a world's record, right? Which supposedly George Thorogood claims he did, but they're not in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Plus, George Thorogood does not have Buzz's hairdo or frog.
Oh, the word is George Thorogood's on the DL, if you know what I mean.
Hey, you know what? I'd strap one on for George Thorogood, and I'm gonna tell you that. I'll call him Peggy Sue any day of the week.
Oh man, yeah. So because we had limited time, we had some of the cities we played were not the normal cities. We played like some B market cities in order to make our drives tolerable.
Did you pet a bison or a buffalo, or did you eat one?
No, there was no time for that. It was all.
It couldn't even pet a bison.
So
we petted a bison on our last tour. There was a bison head in one of the Airbnbs.
Wow.
Yeah. That was Buffy. Exactly.
Buffy. Did they smell weird?
Huh?
Do they smell weird?
It was a taxidermy bust, and it didn't smell weird, unfortunately.
No, smell good.
Smelled good, exactly. So did Buzz, did he design, was that part of the whole excitement? Did he design the actual routing?
Yeah, totally. He's super involved with when it comes to routing when he works with his booking agent. And the way he thinks, he could probably tell you right now every city and every club by name, whereas I can't remember shit. I'd leave a town and I already forget where I just was.
Trevor, I'm right with you. I have a photographic memory for images, for objects. I can't remember my own lyrics. Forget it. I have classical musician in my notes on stage. I can remember where anybody put their keys. If they lost something, I can find it. Visual memory.
Yeah.
Words, faces, cities, clubs.
Well, Lydia, did I tell you when we played in SF a couple years ago, and Jello was the DJ, and I ended up staying at his house, and we went out for Mexican food afterwards, and he goes to me, he goes, I talked to Lydia after the show. I said, you should probably get rid of the note stand, and she told me to go to hell.
I probably told him to get rid of 2/3 of his fucking spoken word shows, because I don't need a college education from an ass clown. Although I do think it's mandatory for people to go see Jello be out for do spoken word. I mean, just not for 3 fucking hours, marathon, man. I don't get it. Whatever.
If you want to have a 3-hour conversation with Jello, all you have to do is walk up to him and say hello.
Trust me. Rather not. If I do, I go with duct tape. That's it. I don't do it.
So, all right, you have this whole career. You're living in New York. You have your own house. You got in at a good time. Things are all good.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Yeah. What is happiness? Yeah, right. I'm good. I'm
a warm gun aimed at a nothing.
I guess we can talk about technical stuff because it'll be kind of short. I guess you play a P bass. Is your main bass for electric basses for what, 20 years at this point?
Yeah.
And how often do you bring out like the 5-string and active electronics thing at this point? Do people ask for that ever?
No, people don't ask for it. It really depends on, like, I guess what it is. There's some Zorn stuff I've done where he writes low, stuff in low range. So sometimes I'll bring it for a recording session with him. It's funny. I just got this, for me, kind of a strange gig. I'm doing a few gigs next month with this Turkish pop singer. And I just had, and it's super poppy and kind of, it's not totally my thing, but it's cool. It's
So, when people outside your bubble ask you for a gig, do you ever say like, well, how do you even know about me?
Well, this actually recording engineer I know, Joel Hamilton, actually got a hold of me and said, hey, there's this Turkish band that I have worked with before and they need a bass player.
What are they called?
It's her name. It's Sertab Erener.
There's a great Turkish kind of traditional modern groovy with belly dancer Baba Zula from Turkey. That's amazing, from Istanbul. Oh, wow. Just to check it out.
Yeah. I really like a Turkish, like, psychedelic rock, from the 70s or whatever.
Oh, that's pretty far out.
It's weird. I just hang on, Tim. It's weirdly a great album, and I had it on my computer for a long time, and I recently rediscovered it, and I'm almost like, well, whatever. Terry Hall did an album with a guy, I never heard of him, Mustak, which is kind of Middle Eastern. It's so groovy, and it's like from the 90s. Terry Hall was in Fun Boy 3. Not my favorite band, but this album he made is so great because it's got this Middle Eastern, it's not corny, Middle Eastern Turkish vibe with this guy singing, and he's singing also called Mustak. I love this album. Just like references for your upcoming Turkish pop.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Turkish Star Wars?
No.
They made like a knockoff in Turkey. It's pretty far out.
Wow. Do you have any Turkish psychedelia like that you'd like favorite records? Because I mean, I'm very interested in that too. Or is it just the genre?
There's a singer I really like. It's kind of more poppy, but her name's Belkıs Alkalay. She's someone that I really like. And
what period is she from?
She's like, I guess probably like with like 80s, 90s. Yeah.
With traditional updated music or what?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yes. I mean, with traditional instruments, but it's also it's probably on the radio or something.
Have you played in Istanbul?
I have, yeah.
It's an amazing place.
One of my favorite cities. It's incredible. Yeah.
It's really amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think I'm going to play my 5-string on this because I've been learning the music, and there's a lot of the guy on the recordings is playing a 5-string. So
okay,
amazing.
Right. Is it true that is the rumor out there that Korn once approached you for potentially joining the band?
Not for subbing for a tour, and this is a story I love to tell because I have no scruples about the truth about it.
Bring it on.
I got was this before or after? Man, I can't remember. I actually recorded on Brian Head Welsh. He's one of the guitar
players. Yes, yeah.
Head made a solo record after he quit Korn and became a born again Christian, and I actually played on that record.
You Satanist.
Yeah, but I think it must have been after that Korn needed a bass player for a month of shows in Eastern Europe, and they basically asked me to name my price, and I don't get gigs like that often where I have to do that, so I kind of researched it. I talked to actually, speaking of Faith No More, I spoke to Mike Borden, the drummer from Faith No More, because he'd played with them previously.
He's played with Osborne, and he's played with Ozzy Osbourne. He's played with tons of people.
Yeah, totally. So I was just kind of like I don't know what to ask for. I don't want to. I'm sure these guys obviously have money, but I don't want to, And I didn't. The truth is, I didn't want to do it. So my only justification was like, I'm only going to do this if I get paid a shit ton of money,
and become the new lead singer.
No.
And and basically I priced them out. They said no. So my takeaway is that Korn can't afford me.
Oh, that's a good one.
They're not called Korn for nothing, honey.
Well, I mean, I think I told you the story. My buddy Nano Navai was in a drug psycho zone, and he was in the same rehearsal studio as they were coming up, and he went up to their bass player Fieldy, a real genius. Yeah. And he's like, hey, how do you get that bass sound? And Fieldy's response was, I don't know.
In this vast void of the past year and a half, what has occupied some of your time, Trevor? I mean, have you been listening to more music, binge watching TV, doing your sit-ups, playing music, creating it? What have you been doing?
I've been exercising. I've been trying to keep fit, physically, trying to keep myself from atrophying. Is that the right word?
Atrophying.
Yeah. And, but I got into something kind of like interesting. I was visiting my mom last summer, and she's got a good record collection. And actually, right after my dad passed, I was going through a bunch of stuff, and we're getting rid of stuff. And there were all these like old cassette tapes, and I found some blank cassette tapes. And I thought, man, I'm going to make a mixtape. I haven't made one of those since the 90s. And then I had this idea that I wonder if I made a mixtape and like made the cover myself, because I like doing like paper collages.
That's why I asked about that art behind you, because from here it looks like a paper collage. I also, I was looking at the art of Saul Bass last night, who did all the Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Speaking of art, paper collage, go on.
I want to hear about the mixtape. Yeah.
So I took this little poll on Twitter, and I was like, hey, if I made a tape, And, you know, if I made a personal tape for you and, you know, design the cover, and there's like a 1-minute improv I do myself on it, would you buy it for $100?
Ooh.
And I got like I would say 10 people respond and be like, yeah, I'd do that, buy that. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna start making these. And I put it on Bandcamp and I advertise it. And I sold like over 70.
What?
For freaks
You
only.
made
instead of
seven Gs?
Yeah.
7 Gs on this. Wow, that was clever.
I mean,
Clever
there's
Trevor.
also,
Yes.
like, you know, there's
What's on it?
it depends. Every single one is different.
Different,
Like,
yeah.
Nice.
and every improv I do is different. So they're speaking of
So it was a mixtape of your stuff.
It's all stuff from my record collection, and then there's a one piece that I play on. I don't know if I can legally sell a mixtape, but
well, I mean, hey,
Who cares?
that's been going on for a long time now.
that's true. But what I'm selling is, you know, there's the collage. I just mailed one today, but yeah, I mean, that's, you know, there's I would say there's probably $20 in expenses with each tape.
Yeah.
So
How long does it take to make one?
it depends. You know, but there's many nights over the past, like especially last summer, I was sitting here at home drinking, like making it, you know, they're 90-minute tapes. So
And that's for the freaks that still think cassettes are cool.
which, by
I
the
think
way, they're not cheap anymore. They're not easy to get. Like, you have to fight them on eBay. They're like
Really?
$8 a piece. Yeah.
What?
How
Yeah.
much?
They're at least $8.
To get
What?
Oh my.
Making a CD is
for like
making your
for a Maxell 90, you know, high bias tape.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't you go
So wrong.
There's a Lydian method here that only costs about $2, and there's any kind of cool USB you can think of, like little bottles that look like they're filled with blood or skeleton keys, and you can get a USB port that burns 8 at a time. So although yours are all different, but you could have just different art, and then because you could put all kinds of things on the USB. I'm just saying, I'll take 10% of the profits on your project.
What kind of tape deck do you have?
We'll talk about this, Trevor.
It's what is it? It's a Denon. It's actually I bought my other tape deck died a couple of years ago, and I bought this on eBay. So and
the motor died.
Player too. So
okay.
So I dupe CDs and vinyl, and they're totally, every tape is different. Every song is different. I go.
So is all the artwork different too?
Yeah.
We have had a lot of free time on our hands. Yeah.
Made to order. That was creative, and it seems like it's panning out. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean, the sales have dropped off considerably in the last months, but
hey, maybe after this podcast, you'll get an order for another 43 more.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, you know what? They're really fun to make, you know, so I enjoy doing them. And
I think that's good because it's a personal touch. It's what you're interested in. It's unique. You get to do the artwork for it. What the fuck? Why not?
Yeah.
And it is back to as I like to say, DIM, not DIY. Do it myself. Yeah, DIY.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you made mixtapes as a kid for friends, did you ever make them for like girl crushes and like? Totally, yes.
Trevor, I'm a girl that could crush you, and I'd like to know what that mixtape would be. You can get back to me on that.
Oh boy.
Get back to me on that.
Let's talk. Let's nerd out a little bit on bass players that have influenced you.
Oh geez. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure it's huge. It's huge. Just rattle out a few, and then I'm assuming that there's just endless more.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's all the standard ones that all bass players know, you know, which I probably don't even need to name. But
well, not everyone's a bass player listening to this, so you can name a few.
I mean, my first couple teachers when I was a kid were really good and turned me on to all kinds of stuff. So Stanley Clark was actually one of the first guys.
Whoa, okay, all right.
And you know, learn how to play those fifths and stuff, you know, and then, you know, from there it was like Jocko and, you know, I really got into like Bobby Vega and Rusty Allen, who both those guys played with Sly Stone, and Larry Graham, of course.
Larry Graham, yeah, of course.
So yeah, and then as I got into jazz, I got into Ray Brown and Charlie Hayden, and I don't know.
But you were into hard rock and you were into pop rock growing up. So
Yeah.
what are those bass players who are not usually?
I wouldn't
heroes of
consider Gene Simmons one of the better ones, although I've got my own personal stories that have already been told repeatedly. I would not.
Well, no,
I've got my
I don't
own
think anyone
personal
does.
stories about Gene Simmons. We don't need to. I'm sure I'm in the Polaroids. That's not good.
Did you ever see Kiss as a kid? Did you ever see Kiss as a kid?
My first concert when I was 11 years old, my dad took me to the Cow Palace. I saw Kiss.
But did Gene Simmons dress you up in his gear? We're not going to go over that.
She's got other stories. Yeah.
I will say I've never seen a concert to compare to it since.
Wow. Was
I'd really like to say I've never had a tongue that compared to Paul Stanley's, not Gene Simmons. I'm just...
All right. Nice. Well, inside info. All
hey,
right.
As I like to say, it's not about the size. It is about the emotion.
Right.
That tongue, it can be 3 feet long. You don't know what to do with it. You might as well stick it up your own ass and spin.
Did you push back Paul Stanley's hair and see his half ear? That thing?
I blindfolded myself.
Oh, well done.
I always assumed that Paul Stanley was gay. Actually,
that's what a lot of people.
Maybe I turned him gay.
Well, in the decline
at 13
was a Decline of Civilization 2, where he's in there like with all these like girls in the bed. It's like, you can achieve anything you want, and it's like he's pretty. It's like none of those women are getting fucked. It's pretty
Excuse
clear.
Me, some of the best head I've had has been from gay men.
Oh, all right. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Did Peter Criss do Beth drunk when he saw them play?
It's funny. I don't remember that. I mean, I remember, they did all the standard stuff, the blood,
pyrotechnics,
the guitar floating off into the rafters, catching on fire,
All right. So you're listening to hard rock. And so obviously you have a teacher that's exposing you to a lot of the bass legends, but then you're forming your own aesthetic and taste with the music you're listening to, or maybe aside from those things.
Well, and I want to cut to the future and say this: you've done a lot of different kinds of music. You've heard, you're very knowledgeable about what's out there at all different formats, from instrumental to hard rock, etc., to jazz to out jazz. Is there any music you haven't done that you'd like to do? And you were mentioning, before, like Sly's bass players. I mean, is there like a genre you're like, I'm going to get to that? I mean, now you're going to be doing Turkish pop soon. So is there this genre you're like, oh, it's coming?
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that I'm like, I mean, one thing I've thought about, and this has to do with this duo project, SpermChurch, that I just put out.
Called what? Sperm Jerks?
SpermChurch.
SpermChurch?
Here,
yes.
let me plug it right here.
Cool. All right. So tell us about it.
Gold font. Well, this is this duo with me and Sanity, my friend who passed last year. But she's an electronic musician, so and very influenced by like trap music and hip hop, but she kind of does her own weird thing with it. And it got me into kind of like, wanting to check out more like electronic, more like trap bass line,
Yep.
And like transcribe them and figure out how to do that in a live setting or something, because sometimes there's some just, unexpected stuff going on in there that not paying attention to because it's so, pop and lyric oriented.
Sometimes you're just not interested in a certain genre because you don't know the best of what goes on in it. I mean, to me, it's like if you walk into a record store and you have no idea, and you bought 20 albums, they might all suck when there could be thousands that are amazing. So sometimes, people have prejudice against a genre because like, oh, I don't like that. I mean, for me, it's like opera. I don't want to hear any opera. I don't care. I love the concepts that opera presents in a political and sexual way and how they broke ground, but I don't want to hear it done other than, Jacques Brel or Kurt Weill. I don't want to hear Italian opera. So Sometimes you
The
just have
late Stockhausen operas are awesome, but that's besides the point. So
that's a
so this-
different kind of thing.
So when you're exploring this with the bass, I mean, tell me some of it. Is it you have to get it like an octave pedal? Is it like a lot of sub stuff going on, or there's kind of
for sure.
oscillation stuff? So you're going to be achieving that through different filters, different effects to kind of
which I have
live.
I've got into a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, I use Octaver and but a lot of times it's synth bass, and it's like
Right.
I don't. It's not like I want to have like a pedal that turns my bass into a synth. It's more like just kind of like musically what is going on. Oh, he's never playing on the one, or
Right.
the fourth time around it makes it sound like the first time around. Or I don't know the way
It's so interesting having to dissect something that's maybe not your world. In college, I would get these salsa merengue gigs in Hartford, Connecticut, and the merengue shit. They're all cranked out and coke, and it's going at a fast tempo, and it's all this kind of staccato 1 and 5 stuff. But then there's all this kind of like sustained, subtle glissandi that's like a superimposed phrasing, and it's like, I feel like you had to be born into that to really get that shit. It's just like,
right. I think I'm sort of being like this armchair analysis thing, like, oh, what is going on in this, this urban music? But I mean, I feel like I can,
well, I like to say, you can always be too white, but you can never be too black. That's just my theory. I don't know. That's just me.
I'm definitely too white.
Oh my God.
That's why you always wear black.
But you're
color of my true love's hair.
Finish your point though. You finish your point because I was curious where that was going.
I feel like I could get out of that what I can out of if I want to, if I hear, for instance, a Stockhausen piece where I hear it, I'm like, wow, what is going on here? And something is drawing me into it, and I want to figure out what it is. So as opposed, I mean, I don't do that with everything I like. Some music I just put on and I just enjoy it. So. But I think of music in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes it's background music. Sometimes I want to analyze it. It's how I make my living.
I have to ask, Trevor, I'm sorry, but what kind of music do you like to have sex to? Even with yourself.
Whoa.
Girls, ladies, gentlemen, boys, non-describables. We all want to know.
I usually don't put on music when I'm about to have sex with myself.
Because your self-satisfying sex is music. It's the musicality of perverse.
Candles, like put on a nice shirt.
Yeah. You look in the mirror.
A nice frock, maybe.
You're looking in the mirror. Let's have a little mood music as you're talking to yourself.
I always like to divide the men from the mice by putting on some murder rap and see if they can groove to that.
Well,
that's just me.
All right, so Trevor, we're talking about bass players that you like. What about bass players you hate? Well,
don't ask me that.
You don't have to answer this. What do you think of Kim Gordon?
I got to get the doorbell. Good, thank God.
Also, I have to say I was never a Sonic Youth fan. I just, I mean, I get it. I kind of get the concept, but I could have, one record probably would have done it.
Right. It didn't grab you. No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want to plug? I mean, you
just send us the links or
SpermChurch,
right.
SpermChurch you're plugging?
Because I just put it out, and I put it out on my label that I just started. So
cool.
I have a label called Riverworm Records.
Yay!
I hear that Invectrin, which does not cure COVID, actually cures river blindness. Just saying. All right. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunchtime. To all our special guest, bass player extraordinaire, Trevor Dunn. Thank you.
For having me.
Thanks, Trevor. Awesome.
Neighbor.
Got him.